What's happening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Pathways to Success podcast. Today on the show, I have Bryan Townsend, and Bryan is the co-founder of the nonprofit organization Triggers Toys, as well as the VP of Global Sales for the 86 Company. Bryan, welcome to the podcast, man.
Thank you for having me. This is great. I'm excited.
Yeah, and we are, of course, introduced by Tony Flea, who is also on the podcast, so shout out to Tony.
Hello, Tony.
So Bryan, lots to talk about here today. And you have kind of this interesting journey of having started this nonprofit, and it really seems to have transformed your life in a lot of different ways. So give us a little bit more context. So what was your career like before you were even doing nonprofits?
I've always been interested in doing nonprofit work. I just didn't know how to get started, what to do. And then there's a lot of people that do that. They think that, you know, maybe if I start going to soup kitchen on the holidays, that'll inspire and try to figure out how I can do this. And so, you know, I was living in Houston right out of college and started donating my time one morning a week, and started going to children's hospitals and just trying to figure out. And the first job I had was to take some of the kids out of their room and take them to a playroom and play with them. And it was incredibly intimidating because they didn't know who I was and I didn't know who they were. And I was in my mid-20s. I didn't have anything to talk to them about. I didn't really know, so I tell everybody I wasn't very good at it. And I ended up moving back to Dallas a few years later, and fast forward, I was in a job that I was so unhappy with. I can't say enough. Like, I just was in this place that I couldn't get out of. I didn't know where my life was headed. I was single. I didn't really have any prospects of any girlfriends / wives, whatever. But I didn't really know what was happening, and so. It got to a point where I was so miserable in my current situation that I just said, you know what, I'm going to change it, and I'm just going to quit my job. And I've never ever quit a job in my life, even in high school. You know, the only reason I ever quit a job was to go back to school or whatever, and I quit, and it was the best thing and the hardest thing I ever did. The difference is the week after that is when the housing crash happened, and so I was in deep trouble pretty quick.
So this was 2006?
Yeah, 2006, 2007, and so the market crashes, no one's hiring, and I'm like, uh-oh. So I'm like, what am I going to do?
So you literally did not have a plan, no prospects?
Zero plan, none.
Wow, okay.
And I had a lot of contacts that I had made, but those dried up really quick because there was just nothing.
Yeah.
So I just was, the first few weeks, I was like, this is great, freedom, I get to do everything I want. And then, you know, paycheck stopped, and I was like, whoa, I need to find a job. So it was weeks and weeks of trying to find jobs, and you can only call recruiters and people so much where you're kind of like, okay, I need to take a step back. So I made a list tried to stop feeling sorry for myself, and made a list of all the things I ever wanted to do. And one of them was volunteering. You know, it didn't cost any money. It gave me something to do. I had time to do it. And I had started training my lab to maybe do that in the future, but I never really dedicated all that time. So I started hunting for someone that could help me train my dog, and I found a lady that would do it. And so we worked together on a regular basis, and you know, tried to get him certified, and we failed. Like the first time he tried to get certified, he didn't make it. He didn't even make it like 5 minutes into the test. And then the next time, it was 3 months later, he ended up passing, and so we were able to start visiting children's hospitals. And that's kind of when everything changed, was my first visit to the children's hospital. That's when everything in my whole life, like, I try to explain to people, you know, sometimes you don't really know that your life is changing. I knew this. I can tell people the second my life changed was that day, and I remember it like I know it. It was really an incredible experience. So, what my job was to take Trigger, my dog, and we went into the physical therapy area, and we just basically sat in a chair in the corner and just sat there because a lot of kids aren't really into dogs, or they're scared, or they're scared of their situation that they're in, or whatever. So we just sat there and hung out, and there was a little girl going through physical therapy, and she was crying the whole time. And at the very end, the nurse is like, I can't get her to the next step. We're really struggling. And I said, well, maybe she wants to give Trigger like a treat. Do you like dogs? And she nodded yes. And So we started kind of like getting her to trigger to lick treats out of her hand, and then all of a sudden she starts reaching in and giving it to her, and all of a sudden it becomes the therapy that they were trying to work on. They were actually trying to get her to pick stuff up with each hand. They were trying to get her to move across the room, and all of these things they were trying to get her to do became instantly easy. And in the middle of it, they ran out and they grabbed her mom, and her mom came in, and I had thrown some treats through this little pop-up little tunnel, and Trigger went through it, and she went through it.
Yep.
And little did I know is the impact that, her mom, it was like this big emotional moment. Her mom's crying, like the nurses are just like blown away, and they're like, can you come every week? And I'm like, absolutely. And I didn't realize the gravity that it had. It was just in those moments, it's like, I don't understand what the big deal is. But apparently it was a huge breakthrough for her. And so I ended up leaving, and a few weeks earlier I had met a girl, and we'd just started dating, and I called her after it was all over. I was like, I have this idea. I want to get some toys, collect it from all of our friends, and I want to take it to a children's hospital and give it to them over the holidays. And she's like, that's a good idea. So that's what we did. And so when I started calling around hospitals, they're like, that's great, you can drop off, whatever. And I was like, no, I kind of wanted to come in with Trigger and give out toys. And they're like, okay, well, what's your 501c3? What's your organization called? I was like, no organization, just me. They're like, yeah, it's not that easy. And so I said, okay, well, what do you need for me to do it? So they told me that I need to set up an organization. And so there was literally time for me to do it. And so I dedicated a part of my time looking for a job. And when I wasn't looking for a job, I was doing Trigger's toys, setting up the foundation, and I didn't know what I was doing. And that's how it all started.
So the experience that really kind of changed you forever, it was that initial...
Yeah, it was, I don't know how to explain it. It just, it's leaving that hospital for the first time was just, I don't know. I felt like I had a purpose. I felt like I had something to do. It made me happy. I didn't know what it was going to do. I just was like, let's get some toys. It wasn't a big deal at the time. It just was like, we're going to get some toys. But I was excited about it. I wanted my friends to be excited about it. I wanted to do something for me that made me happy, that took the situation that I was in, just made me feel a little bit better while we're helping others. And it was just, that's all it was intended to do. Well, then that's kind of when all of this changed. And so I was actually playing rugby at the time. Even though I wasn't a rugby player, I just was going out more for the exercise. Some of the rugby team was like, hey, we can collect a bunch of toys. And we collected like 2 full SUVs full of toys the next year for Trigger's toys. Wow. And then one guy gave me a check for $500.
Wow.
And I remember looking at him going, you're just an idiot. Why would you give me $500? And he's like, I want you to buy what you need to buy for the kids in the hospital. And so I was like, okay. So I deposited it, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to use this for. And I was going to go buy toys with it, and then I was like, well, it seems a little dumb to spend this money on more toys. And one of the nurses came up to me a few days later and was like, do you guys ever raise money, or do you just do toys? And I was like, well, it's really been toys just for my friends. It's like, well, if you ever have money, there's this equipment that we need to buy. This family doesn't have the funds to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you need? How much does it cost? And it was like $350. And I was like, I got the money.
Check. Yeah.
So I gave him, I said, what's the equipment? I purchased it. I had it mailed directly to them. And that was that. And then that kind of came up with an idea of, wow, if we're getting toys so easily from people, what if we started trying to raise a little bit of money and buy this equipment that families directly need? And we made the decision that no matter what happens ever, I'm never going to give an individual a check. I'll find out what they need, and then I'll buy it for them.
Why that philosophy?
Because I just believe that, from me, just my personal perspective, people want to know what the money goes towards.
Right.
And so I want to share, I take pictures of all the toys that we donate. I take pictures of the events that we do. I have pictures of medical bills that we've paid off for people. I will take pictures of those bills, and I will write checks to the insurance company that needs to pay for those bills, or to the hospitals, so that people know what they're giving to and what it's for.
Yeah.
And transparency for me was one of the big key things that I wanted to differentiate myself from maybe someone else. And I don't mean that as a negative thing to anybody else. It was just, I want people to get excited that if they give me $25, I'll show them what that $25 goes to.
Yeah, totally.
If they give me $1,000, I'll show them what it goes to. And maybe we're going to lump it together and give it as one big, thing, but at least they know what it's starting to go to. And so, the first year we raised $500. The next year we raised like $1,500. And I thought, I can't believe we're so huge. I mean, I thought we were this giant organization. It was just me and my girlfriend at $1,500, right. But we were able to buy things that the hospital gave us a list. And I'm like, I can buy all of that. And I would buy all of it. And it was just amazing. Because if you think about it also, at that time, all the funds and budgets were cut from medical facilities. So they didn't have money to buy this stuff. So there was one, our children's house, there was one time where recently before they moved the facility, I walked in and I was giving someone a tour. I was like, we bought that, we bought that, we bought that. You know what, we bought everything in here. We've bought everything. Every single thing that they're using for rehabilitation, we had bought in like a 3-year span. And it was crazy. So we could take donors, they can meet the families, and it's kind of like fast forward to where we are now. It's one of my stipulations of being a part of my organization, whether you're a sponsor of the events that we do or you just kind of want to put in your time, that's great. You just have to come to the hospital or you have to come to the medical facility, you have to meet the families, you have to know what we're about. So you have to understand what we're doing before I take your money or before you want to volunteer your time. You have to know what it's for. And that's kind of the whole point of this, and I've turned down tens of thousands of dollars over the years because I'm like, if they don't get it, it's not really for us. Because how are we gonna forward this movement of giving back in our community if you don't stick to your guns? Because I don't have anything to lose. I have a full-time job. This is not my job. Yeah. I'm actually don't pay myself. I don't take money from my organization. We do this because it's a right thing to do, and I never knew it would become what it is right now. So. And
what is it right now exactly?
It's hard to explain. I'll go into Tony Fleo, who I'm actually having dinner with tonight. I'm pretty excited because we're going to celebrate. We're going to celebrate tonight. A few years ago, five years ago exactly, I met a couple of bartenders. In my professional world, I run a company called the 86 Company. Mm-hmm. The 86 Company develops spirits for bartenders by bartenders. So over the years, I've been able to meet a lot of restaurateurs, GMs, bartenders, bar owners, like you name them, all across the country, but most importantly in Texas. And I was having lunch with somebody one day and I was like, God, there's got to be a way that we can do something with Trigger's Toys over the holidays with our little community. And one of the bartenders is like, you should throw a pop-up. And I was like, oh, that's cool. What's a pop-up? And he's like, we'll turn an event, like a bar, we'll rent out a bar one night and throw an event and we can raise money and we'll bring in all these bartenders and then consumers can come in and just buy drink tickets and we can create this whole cocktail thing. And I was like, that sounds fun, let's do that. So we did it and we had like 75 bartenders show up and we needed to raise $10,000. One of the bartenders, his son was born with a lot of medical issues and they had already had $1 million covered already and he was about $10,000 out of pocket. His place was closing down, his wife wasn't able to work. And so I called all the big suppliers in my world. I called every bartender and I said, hey, let's surprise Rocco. Let's raise 10 grand and the night of we can pay all his medical bills off. And he won't know anything about it. Let's just do it for him. So we raised $10,000. Well, actually we raised like $12,000, $13,000. And at the end of the night I said, hey Rocco, when you go home tonight, kiss your little boy, kiss your wife, and tell them they don't have to worry about their bills anymore because they're all taken care of. And so that's really the beginning of what has happened. And most of our funds that have come in have been because of that. So that year we raised like 12 grand. The year after that we raised $25,000. The year after that we raised $100,000 just in one night. The year after that, we raised $200,000, and last year we raised $250,000. Or this year, just a couple months ago. Doing this one-time event. So we took it to the next level last year, where it became a Sunday night thing, and we had 500-700 people come, 150 bartenders, and all these sponsors that would put in. But again, the stipulation was you had to come in with no ego. You had to go to the hospital. You had to be a part of this community. There wasn't ROI. I was like, let's just come together where two vodkas aren't going to compete against each other. They actually, for one night, drop it and do it for the better good of our community. So all these bartenders, every distributor, everybody, it's the equivalent of Coke and Pepsi throwing a party together. Yeah. It's unheard of. Incredible. It just does not happen in this world, but it was the rules. It was, you cannot come in. It's not a competition. This is at the end of this evening, we're going to be helping families. That's all that matters. And if you don't have that in mind, you don't need to be a part of this. And we appreciate it. You can attend, and we hope you do, support us. But this just isn't for you. If you are willing to come in with an open mind, excited to help your community, to be a part of this, then we want to have you. And it doesn't matter if we raise $1 or if we raise $100,000. It doesn't matter to me, because as long as everybody has the same mindset and they have the same goal, we can scale it, and we are. I mean, we've scaled this thing to, it's wild. So we have raised in the last 5 years about $1.2 million. Unbelievable. And it's we don't have a board of directors. I just recently put in some people on our board of advisors that can kind of help, and but it's just crazy. It's just crazy where this has come from. And my girlfriend at the time, who I called that we were dating 2 weeks, is now my wife. She's my partner in this whole thing, and is just, she gives such great advice, and she's right there beside me, if not in front of me, doing this whole thing. And next week we're going to the Children's Hospital. We're giving them all the toys. We have Santa come in, and so we still do that, where the donors can come and meet the families that they've helped. So where this is scaled was 3 years ago. We were at our event, and this guy walks up to me and he goes, "Who are you, and why have we never met?" That
sounds like someone I know.
Yeah, I know, right? So my name's Bryan Townsend. I run an organization called Triggers Toys, and this is my party. Who are you? And he was like, "My name is Tony Flea." I was like, "Oh, hi, nice to meet you." Tony. Yeah. And he said, I'm the president and CEO of this organization called Social Venture Partners. And I think he was looking for me to have some reaction, because, but I'd never heard of him.
Never heard of him.
Which is crazy, because they are an amazing organization and have their hand on more good in this community than I've seen in a really long time. And he said, "I want to meet with you next week. Can you come and sit down with me?" I said, "Sure." So I called a friend of mine. I was like, "Has anybody heard of SVP?" And he was like, "Why?" I was like, "Because I'm meeting with a guy named Tony Flea next week." And the guy's like, "It's a really big deal, man. Like, you need to go prepared." And I was like, "I don't really have anything to prepare. What are we going to do? We're just throwing a pop-up and raise some money." So I sat down with him, and he grilled me. I was sweating during the whole thing. And he basically said, like, "You have an amazing thing going. What you need to do is we need to bring some people in that can kind of complete the circle."
Yeah.
And so we went on this 1.5 year long thing with SVP that he brought in a lot of young professionals, and we have now created the Triggers Toys Therapy Program. So what we did was, myself and Bryan's house got together, and we started this organization, or this program, to raise $100,000 in 1 year. And we had all these young professionals, and we wrote out the whole business plan. We wrote everything. They helped from top to bottom. And it took about 1 year, and then we presented it to Social Venture Partners as either, I think a lot of things that I've had a hard time still to this day understanding is whether it's nonprofits or businesses and that do the same thing, fight with each other, or they all do the same thing, but they won't work with each other. And it's such a strange thing to me. Yeah. Because for me, it doesn't matter what the organization is, or who's top and who's bottom, or whatever. It's the people that the money's going to that the only thing that matters to me. I don't care whose name is in the paper. I don't need to be sitting here. It's not about that at all. It is about, I've made the decision that this is what I want to define my life, whether everybody knows about it or whether nobody knows about it. It doesn't matter to me. That these are the people that I want to help. How do I do that? And so Tony was like, if you guys are able to work together and really do full collaboration, it might be something we'd be interested in really getting behind. So we presented it to him, and he said, congratulations, you're now part of SVP. So now we are a part of Social Venture Partners, where hopefully he's going to bring some of his people with experience to sit with us and say, okay, here are some of the things that you need to think about, or here's some people I'd like to introduce you to, and it's basically connectors from here.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm hoping for the future, because I don't know how big I want this to be. I don't know if I want it to grow at all, and I don't know if I don't want it to. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know that whatever we do has to have the same mission, and I cannot allow anybody to come in and say, well, this is what has to happen, or take control of it and go, you need to do this because this is what everybody else is doing. I don't want to do what everybody else is doing. It's not really for me. I want to figure out a way. I mean, we raised $1.2 million by not knowing what we're doing and doing it by sticking to our guns. Last year, I turned down a $25,000 sponsorship because they had demands on how their sponsorship is going to be handled. And I said, it's just not for us, but I appreciate it, but maybe next year. So.
Bryan, what is the lesson in all this, man? What do you think it is? What is it?
I think it's, you have a vision and you stick with it. If it's right, I will never apologize for doing the right thing. And what's crazy about it now is I think that in my life, this is just me, selfish me, everything that's good that's happened in my life has been because of this. And I never thought we would be here. I never thought I'd be doing an interview. I never thought I would meet Tony Flea. I never thought that I would raise $500, someone would give me a $500 check. I never ever in a million years thought we would be having these conversations. It was for me. And I know that seems a little selfish, but I wanted to figure out where my life is, and everything good has happened because of it. And it's because everybody that's involved with us has the same mission, and they believe in this. And everything that good has happened because of it is because of the people that have come in and said, I can do this, and I can do this, and I can help you build this. And they're over here doing these things, and these bartenders that have sacrificed so much for us that, we have people that come from, I had people fly in this year from London. They got on a plane, flew to the United States. I didn't pay hotels, I didn't pay flights. They just said, we want to be a part of it. I had people from LA, from Florida, from New York. They all flew into town on their own dime. And because I said, I'm not using donor funds to pay for your flight. I'm sorry, I can't do that. I would love to have you here, but it's just, I can't do that to our donors. It's just not okay.
What is the mission of Triggers Toys?
It's changed. Like this the therapy program has actually brought a lot of things to light, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah.
The toy thing's great. I really appreciate it, but that's not the mission anymore. It was, and it's not.
Okay.
I really enjoy, I will always do the Christmas party. I think that that's important. I love it. It's the best night of my life. My two little girls are able to participate in it, so it's a big deal for me. But to walk into a place like Bryan Townsend as an example, where they don't have a full-time physical therapist, the kids don't get physical therapy much at all. And for me to be able we had a 12-month goal to raise $100,000, and I did it in 3.5 months. And to be able to give them a check for $100,000 and say, you can hire a physical therapist, you can run this program, you can build out, some of these therapy rooms the way that you wanted to build it out, and here, this will fund you for the next year. Hang tight, I'm hoping to come with more. And to have a program that's fully run and we can produce results to our donors. I have pictures of checks for $100,000 giving it to them, and then I have Bryan's house giving us testimonials from all the kids and their families of what that has been able to do. And how do you put a price on that? It's just.
And you have no previous history of doing things like this before?
No.
Like any kind of entrepreneurial sense, any kind of heavy lifting in terms of
I have no idea what I'm doing. None. None. And what it is just pure persistence. It was, I mean, honestly, just the setting it up through the IRS was hard enough. I wanted to quit 3 times, and the only reason I didn't quit is because I kept pinching myself because I didn't have anything else to do. To be completely honest with you, like, suck it up. It's not like you have anything else to do. So, and then, you know, just trying to find hospitals, trying to get people to believe in what we were doing was hard enough. Finding people that actually thought we were legitimate, that was another one. The first year, NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams did or Lester Holt did a featured story on us, and that was really cool. And I didn't really believe that it was real until it actually aired, and I had got a letter in the mail, and it was a check for $1. And I always tell people that donation has meant more to me than anything. It doesn't matter how much I'll ever. That came from a good place. And I'd like to think it came from someone that was just like, wow, I don't know. The time it took for them to address it to us, to mail it to us for a check for $1 means a responsibility that I have to our donors and to the people that want to kind of take this ride with us. It's a big responsibility, you know? It's not taken lightly by any means. It's a big deal. It's good people's hard-earned money. So, I don't have any experience. I'm trying. We have a CPA. You know, I mean, there are things that we have to pay for.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, there's probably 4 key people inside of Triggers Toys that day in, day out provide. We have someone that helps with events. We have someone that helps with sponsorship. We have someone that helps with PR, and then we have my wife, and then we have me. That's it. So.
I know something that you're really passionate about speaking on, obviously through your actions and the success that you've created with your nonprofit, is giving back to your community. But now, having seen it at this scale, do you have new and better reasons of why it's important to give back, having experienced what you've had?
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's a good saying, get involved, you know? I tell people all the time, the biggest compliment I've ever received is when other people that have participated in Triggers Toys now have found their own path. And they want to give back in their community. For me, it doesn't matter about my organization. I'm going to always do Triggers Toys. This is something that is a part of me. And again, if we raise $250,000 this past year and I raise $100,000, I don't look at it as like, wow, what a loss. I look at it as, wow, what success. I don't ever look at it as a negative way. But if people can come in and say, you know, my mom had cancer, and something that's really important to me is cancer research, and I want to start an organization for X. Great. Someone else that wants to do animals, worth adopting animals, or, you know, whatever. I will sit down and have lunch with them or have coffee with them any day of the week and say, here are the things you really need to think about. Here are the things that you should have in place. And if I can help mentor them in any way, that is pure joy for me. I mean, honestly, because it's, you know, people, it's not about the holidays of giving back. It's giving back 365. And the lessons that you can teach your kids, the lessons you can teach your friends. And, you know, it's not easy to rally the troops, but when you do, man, it's pretty amazing. Our event is, you know, we announce the winner. It's like they just won the lottery. It's crazy. And they do it in such a beautiful way because we raise so much money. It's so fun, and others can do it. You can do it. It is hard. It's not gonna be easy, but it is possible. And instead of just kind of sitting around saying, oh, I don't know what I want to do. I'd like to do something, I don't really know what. You have to really decide you want to do it, and then do it.
So let's get tactical, because part of why I was excited to bring you on the podcast, because when it comes to creating your own nonprofit, because I don't have that kind of exposure, to me it seems like it's like this daunting process. But you mentioned that you would be happy to mentor people. So if someone's has a mission in mind, and you said these are the things that you need to consider, what are those things you need to consider?
Patience. Okay. A lot of patience. They're going to have a lot of drive. I mean, just getting a website up and running is hard enough. Just getting people to figure out whether you're legitimate or not is hard enough. I mean, you are going to have to sell it to people all day, every day. You have to have a success. You have to start proving success. You need to put people sit at a table and put people around that 100% believe in what you're going to do. I have people tell me all the time that they're willing to help. This was early on. Oh, I'm willing to help you and do this. And then you call them, you're like, hey, were you really wanting to help? And they're like, yeah, call me tomorrow. And then all of a sudden they don't pick up their phone for a really long time.
Right.
You know, you have to find people that want to do this with you. You cannot do it alone. And if you do it alone, hopefully you have some good connections, because it's really hard to do by yourself. The next thing is, I think that people need to be honest about what they want to do, and be honest with the people that they're going to be asking from. You know, you need to know who you are, what you want to do. For me, the people that I want to help are doing it for the right reasons, meaning like they're not doing it to do that as their full-time job. They want to do it as, I want to give back in my community, and here's how. Yeah. You know, if people want to start a nonprofit organization for their own job, well then that's just different for me. It's not for me. Mm-hmm. But you have to be willing to like get knocked down quite a few times and then get back up, because it's hard. I've wanted to quit Trigger's Toys probably more than a dozen times easily. At first, it was just out of pure frustration because I didn't know what I was doing, and I couldn't find anybody that would help me. And then later on, it was, I have a full-time job, I have babies, and how am I going to keep going? And, you know, then you go to the hospital one day and it all changes. You're like, this is why I'm doing it. So it's hard. You have to know it's going to be hard.
So persistence, having a vision, and so like some of the like technical things, like what does becoming a 501c3 do for you, allow you?
Well, it makes you legitimate. It means that the government, the IRS, are convinced of what you are, who you are.
And you can take money.
And you're allowed to take money, and you can set up like a bank account and a business like under your name. So I have like a Trigger's Toys checking account, as an example. Yeah. And then you're able to have, like, you're able to write tax exempt receipts and all of those things, right? Right. So you basically are, I guess technically it is a business. So it's just like setting up a business. So the only way to relate it is, if you were going to start as an entrepreneur, if you were going to start a business, how would you do it? You know, you need to know, you need to have some sort of a business plan. I actually didn't. I just kind of winged it. But what I did have was people that were willing to kind of jump in front of a bus for it. And that's what the difference, that's how we've done this, is really be really passionate about what we want to do, and find people that are connectors for other people that are willing to kind of run out there and be your cheerleaders, and grab people and bring them in and say, we have an idea. Bryan will tell you what it is. So it's basically like building a business, but for charity.
And what would you consider to be kind of the biggest misconception about starting a nonprofit? That
you're just going to walk into Southwest Airlines and they're just going to give you money.
Give you money?
No. That you can just walk into any hospital anytime you want and go, I'm here, I want to volunteer. It just doesn't work like that. You really have to pick up the phone. You have to tell people who you are, what you're looking to do. You have to sign up to be a volunteer. You have to go through all of their, you know, when we go to hospitals and we do all that stuff, the background checks and everything, you know, we have to follow their policies. So Trigger actually doesn't visit a lot of the hospitals anymore. It's mostly because he's old. But a lot of it is, we don't have a therapy dog program, so there's really nothing for Trigger to do. But you really have to kind of think of it in terms like that. So,
wow. Yeah. Anything else, Bryan? Like, for the person who's really wanting to get started and start their own nonprofit, what are your words of advice to sort of inspire them to take that first step?
Do it. Do it. Do it. It'll 100% change everything in your life. I'm telling you, everything good. My girlfriend is now my wife. We have 2 beautiful girls. You know, my girls are now involved in the charity work. They think about Trigger's Toys. My little girl is 5 years old. She came to me, I was in the middle of, I told this story the other day. I was working on my computer, office out of my house. And I'm working on my computer, and they got home from school, and they're like, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy. And I'm like, hang on. I was right in the middle of an email, and you know, you're just like in the zone. And I was like, just 1 second. And she's holding her piggy bank, and she's like, look at all the money I have. And I was like, 1 second, Charlie, like, give me a second, just a moment. And she's like, but I want to give it to Trigger's Toys. And I was like, what? Wow. And she's like, I have all this money in my piggy bank. And I was like, well, go buy a toy with it, Charlie. It's okay, you can pick anything you want. She's like, no, this is for Trigger's Toys. Waterworks, It kind of means, you know, I'm not great at everything in this world, but I'm doing that right.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when my 5-year-old is now thinking about giving back to others, it's pretty cool. You know, I mean, what kind of little girl is she going to be if we stick with this thing? You know, so my advice is do it. If you're not able to put in the time to start your organization, which is completely understandable, find an organization that you want to get involved with, and get involved with them. Get your family involved with them. Make it a part of your life. Figure out how that you can go into that organization and help take them to the next level. Maybe you have connectors for them that can assist them. And I promise you, it'll start to light this spark that will give you drive and give you purpose in your life. And, you know, looking back on what you've accomplished in your life, you know, for me, I hope this is something that when people, you know, when my world comes to an end, I hope people look back and say, whether it stops tomorrow, hopefully Triggers Toys will be one of the things that people say about me. I hope it is. You know, again, I don't need to be the spokesperson for it, but it's pretty nice to look back and say, wow, $1 million, like that is a lot of money. It helped a lot of people, so pretty crazy.
Bryan, how do people connect with you? How do people learn more about Triggers Toys? How do they support your cause? Give us all this stuff.
So we have a great website, triggerstoys.org, that people can go to. You know, they can reach out. We have ways to connect off that website. We have events all the time. They can connect. You know, I mean, that's really what we do. It is. I can't say that we have community events every weekend. I can't possibly do that. I don't know what's next. I hope next Tony Flea tells me what's next. I hope he gives me good advice. I think that's another thing. Find a mentor that'll help you. But you know, go to our website. There's videos on there that talks about what we do every day. Talks about the Triggers Toys program. I'm an ugly crier. I have to say that I cry on the video because I take it very serious. It's very important to me to know that how many people we've helped. And you know, sometimes it's weird. I feel guilty that I have 2 healthy, amazing little girls, and you know, how did I get so lucky and other people didn't get as lucky? But the great thing about it is the human spirit is so fantastic that these families are so strong. You know, they're not saying why me, why me. They're saying they're so driven on we're gonna get you better. We're gonna help you, and it kind of what keeps us driving. So, see what we're all about. Find us if you want to be a part of what we're doing. Come on, we would love to have you. But you know, if you're just thinking about organizations to get involved in, I would really think about what you're passionate about, what you want to do, and do it. Get involved with another organization or start your own. It's amazing.
Incredible. And we'll make sure to have all of Bryan's contact information and Triggers Toys information in the show notes. And Bryan, this has been a true pleasure. You are doing some incredible and amazing things, and I cannot wait to see what you bring into this world in the future, man.
It's so surreal every time we talk. I mean, every time I'm able to talk to people, I'm like, wow, $1 million. It's just crazy. So
incredible. And thank you all for tuning into another episode of the Pathways to Success podcast. As always, make sure to subscribe, comment, and share, and we'll see you next week on the next episode of the Pathways to Success.